I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-minute convos where I help you create a brand of your own unique, real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good day, James Woosley. How are you going on this wonderful, beautiful day?
Oh, it's a beautiful day. Beautiful day in Alabama. It's cooler. We're going through a cold cycle, so we like it down here whenever it's like that.
Well, James, it definitely is a great pleasure to connect with you. Uh, Tell me, my friend, which of your talents is responsible for us meeting?
Well, in terms of talents, I think it was just having a LinkedIn profile and us getting connected. So I don't know. We have a lot of mutual connections, and I know a lot of friends who have been on your show before. So somehow, roundabout, my name must have popped up on your list, and I got picked. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to frame that question in the format of what you've been doing is responsible for where you are now. So if you had to say that, then
Yeah. Yeah.
what have you been doing?
Well, for the last 3 years, I've been really hot and heavy in helping people self-publish their books. It's a passion of mine. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I've done more than 100 books now. It's just I just love books. I always have, and now I get to help people live their dreams through their books.
Hey, well, congratulations on that. Being able to say over 100 books is definitely a great accomplishment. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So tell me, how do you help people publish their books? I'm intrigued.
Well, I mean, there's so many different ways to do a book, right? I mean, there's the old-fashioned traditional way of finding an agent and pitching to publishers. It's kind of hard and complicated, and you don't always get picked. There's a lot of rejection in that world, but it's still a very valid process. And then there's the opposite spectrum where it's, you just do it yourself. You just put it together, and I did that with my first book. I figured out how to do it, and I had a publishing background from high school, newspaper editor in high school, and some yearbook stuff in college. And so, 20 years later, I'm playing in these tools, trying to figure out how to do my book. But I had this perception of I wanted it to be as good a quality as anything else out there from a traditional publisher. So I really worked hard at it. And once that book came out and it was successful, not New York Times bestseller or anything, but it was successful for me and what I was aiming for. And other people started to ask, "Hey, how'd you do that? Can you help me?"
Hmm.
And it kind of snowballed from there over the course of a couple of years, and then now it's practically a full-time business. It's still part-time for me, but it's it's leveling up at very fast. So
That's great to hear. That's great to hear. So tell me what your book was about, the first book.
my first book was called "Conquer the Entrepreneur's Kryptonite." It was a book on
Okay.
on strategic planning. So I was doing strategic planning coaching at the time. Still do a little bit of that, but most of my business is now in publishing. And I wrote another book a couple of years later called Challenge Accepted on a different way of looking at goal setting and things like that. But mostly now I don't have time to write because I'm busy publishing other people's stuff.
It's amazing how that works, right?
Oh, it pays the bills and keeps my kids fed, so I am not complaining.
What's the best place for us to go to connect with what you're doing?
My publishing website is freeagentpress.com, and everything's there. It needs an update because it's behind too, but it's the basics are there, and anybody can reach me or schedule a call if they want to chat about their book.
Sounds good. James, it's definitely challenging, the entrepreneurial world. The ups and downs are definitely a part of it, being part time, even more so, right? Why would you
Yes.
continue to repeat this skill?
Well, I started my entrepreneurial journey about 2008 or 2009, so it's been almost a decade now, and I sucked at it for a long time. I was investing a lot and I was learning a lot, and it was not my natural state. But I had this drive to succeed with it, and then I lost my job, and I had a full year to experiment with being self-employed completely. And just as traction was starting to take place, I ended up getting a call from a friend of mine who had started a leather goods company, and he needed a project manager, and that was my background. So I jumped in with him, but because of the work I had done that year, the ball was rolling. And now that momentum has carried on. So I'm working full time. I've got my business part time, and it's just a way to serve people and help people, and use all these skill sets that I've developed over a lifetime of work in different environments in different areas. I love the dynamic aspect of it. I couldn't go work at a job where I'm doing the same thing every day, all the time. And so this way, I never know what's going to happen one day to the next. I just jump in and do it, and I guess I'm doing a good enough job that it's working.
Yeah, definitely something that the majority do not choose, which is the unknown, right? Every day, but you've definitely adopted, haven't you?
I do. It's gonna the change is gonna happen whether we want to or not. And so if we can be open to that change and open to new possibilities, things happen and good things happen.
Yeah, I agree. Well, tell me one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years.
I have gotten out of bed, but I have a point in saying that. When I lost my job, it was about 4 years ago now. I really, I think I went through a period of depression and trying to make all these things happen all of a sudden to take care of my family, and it was very, very hard. There are days still where it's very, very hard. But what I learned in that process, and I had some downtime, and I was just trying to find my path forward, and I was feeling down and out, and I was staying up too late, and I was, doing all kinds of things that just they weren't moving me forward, but I was spinning my wheels. And I realized at some point, I just have to get out of bed, because I would wake up in the morning and it's like, I don't want to get up. I don't want to face this. But if I got out of bed and I got a shower and I sat back down on my computer and I started being productive doing things, whether it was recording my podcast at the time, which has since gone away, or working on a book project or developing a proposal for somebody or searching for a job, whatever it was, if I had activity, if I was busy, if I was moving in that direction toward my future, then I was okay for the rest of the day. And sometimes the next morning would be hard. Sometimes it only last a few days. Sometimes it was longer. But I made that intentional effort. It's like I wake up in the morning, I'm going to get out of bed. I got to get moving. And that was key for me.
Why would you suggest to someone that is listening, someone that may be going through that right now while listening, hey, that they do what you've done by focus on one thing at a time, right? Which is getting off of the bed.
Yeah. I mean, and I think there's a line of difference between clinical depression and kind of what I was going through. Whether I would have been diagnosed as depressed or not, I don't know. But we've all felt that way at some point or another. And so if you just have a routine and have some discipline, and you say, no matter what, I'm going to do these things every day. It might be 2 or 3 things. It might be a little checklist. Exercise, getting out out away from the TV, getting out of bed, making up your bed, whatever it is. And those little things become these anchors for your day, these routines that you can do early on and then move forward and then make something else happen throughout the day. And just that little act, I think that sets you up for a big impact for the rest of your day.
Amazing audience, we are live right now with James Woosley. Do check him out, freeagentpress.com. James, let's switch gears for a moment now. Let me invite you now into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful warm blue Caribbean water. James, what is your earliest childhood memory?
I think it was when I got lost.
Oh, really?
I was probably about 2 years old and wandered away from the house. We were living in Arkansas. My dad was in the Air Force, and we lived on base. And I kind of have this vague memory of meeting this other kid and these berries in a tree. And my parents were calling the cops and trying to find me and all these things. And I just wandered back home. It wasn't a big deal for me. It was for them, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's some vague memories around that. There's also some around when I cut my finger off when I was about the same age. I had an accident at my grandfather's barn and cut most of my pinky finger off, and they put it back on. So
Wow.
all good.
How eventful has your early childhood been?
When I was 2, I must have been something else.
So why do you think this memory is so clear? Well, we definitely understand the memory where your fingers are off, but why do you think the memory where you're wandering off is so clear?
I don't know. I really don't. And it's not super clear, but there's definitely a memory there. I think there's a sense of adventure, though. I think there's a sense of wonder and back to that sense of the unknown and just facing a challenge and seeing what happens. Kids are naturally curious, and I like to stay that way. I like to look around the corner and see what's out there.
Yeah, I like it. Well, can I offer Yeah, an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind.
Sure.
I love how you were expressing what went on when you were out of a job. And I'm guessing it felt a bit like what that child felt like when he wandered off. And it's really intriguing that your natural instincts would allow you to reconnect to home, to base, if you would, to the fort, right? That was necessary for you to get back to. So it's intriguing that you had that sense of direction as a child. And the space that was required, while it may seem as depression, it's definitely the foundation for all you do now, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. If we fast forward to when you were 12, what was your favorite song?
12. Let's see, it was 1986, so there's a lot of great songs from that era. It's probably like Money for Nothing or Brothers in Arms from Dire Straits.
Love it. Well, my friend, we have now arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form. So it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. James, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
Not directly, but there's a lot of people that I work with and coordinate with, do a lot of training. So I'm sharing a lot of information, and I hope to share my skill set one day with either an apprentice or maybe my kids.
Yeah. So how many children do you have?
2.
All right. And are you married?
Yes, I am.
Do you believe in God?
Absolutely.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
Oh, yes. Wish they lived closer because so much of it's virtual these days. But amazing deep impacts from people thanks to the internet that we can have.
Yeah, it is amazing. Closer, I'll tell you something quickly. So where I live is probably about 15 minutes where I am now, and we had a power outage. It's raining, really raining in Trinidad right now. So I was able to come in one of my friend's bedroom, right? A spare bedroom they have, to have this podcast now, because it's all about getting the goal, right? Doing the goal.
Absolutely.
Doing the work. But yeah, having them close by definitely brings a great value. It does. How about TV? Is it more than 3 hours a day or just 3 hours a week?
Well, TV, none, because I don't really have TV service anymore. But I watch plenty of Netflix and Hulu, but less than 3 hours a day.
All right. And what about screen time, the phone and or the computer? Is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
Some days it's more than 18. It's
Wow.
working full time, and then my business at night and the weekends, and it's a lot. But I do try to get outside and see the squirrels at least, and play with the kids a little bit.
Love it. Well, James, after having 1,001 conversations in 3 months, I came up with a workbook, and it's called Yours, and it stands for Your Own Unique Real Self. Connected to that, as you dig deeper, is your own unique real statement, your mission. If you had to share with us, James, your own unique real statement, something that represents who you are, what would you say that is?
I communicate the potential I see in a way that can be realized.
Ooh, yeah.
That's my life purpose statement. I went through a life plan with a good friend named Jonathan Poole a few years back, and that's what we pulled out. And basically what it is as a coach, as a teacher, as a friend, I see things in people, but beyond that, I see a way to make it happen and to communicate that so that they can see that. And it's not perfect. It's not like I'm a sage or anything like that. But it's this thread that I saw all through my past, my present, and what I want to be doing in the future. So that's my statement.
Hey, I love it. James, this was a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
I just follow those dreams. It may be silly, and it may be something that doesn't turn into any big deal. But if you love to paint. It doesn't have to be great. If you love to write, it doesn't have to be great. Do it for yourself. But hone that skill and find that enjoyment and mine it. And then when the time is right, things happen. And so get out there and do that. But if you're a writer and you want to talk about books, I'd love to chat with you about that.
Yeah, check him out, James Woosley. Hey, James, this was a great pleasure one more time. Thank you for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.
Thank you, Angel, very much.
Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, a focus on diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.